Biden has governed recklessly, and he has governed poorly. And at a minimum, there needs to be a check on his power. And then we can have a big debate about Biden or Trump or whoever it is in 2024. But this election is about keeping left-wing Democrats from running roughshod over American values. And we've got to win.
The longer we're talking about the Mar-a-Lago raid at this point, the less we're talking about the obvious failures of Democrat policy that the voters, independent voters, etc., need to know about. At this stage, they're either going to not prosecute Trump, which means all of this is for what exactly? A political hit, a distraction tactic, which I think it certainly is, an overreach, yes. But if they don't prosecute him, we aren't going to see anything come of this other than the news stories we've already had. And if they do, we're in an entirely different political environment before the midterms, at least. It'll just upend everything. I think it is unlikely that they will do so. So do you think we're effectively in a place now where, I know they're doing a damage assessment of the classified documents. Here's the damage assessment, Clay. There was no damage, okay? We could all move on with our lives unless they're going to prosecute Trump for this. What do you think?
I think that Trump is a huge, colossal distraction for midterm turnout. And let me explain what I mean by that. There's no doubt that many people are ardent Donald Trump supporters. But by and large, the most ardent Donald Trump supporter does not come out when Trump himself is not on the ballot. 2018 was that Democrats picked up 40 some odd congressional seats. I know the Senate was not bad. Republicans actually picked up. But you look at what was going on in the Georgia race, where we lost 2 Senate seats that has cost us trillions and trillions of dollars. Frankly, if we just win one of those 2 Georgia Senate seats, then there's no way that Joe Biden is able to spend, I think, a fraction of what he has managed to spend. And Buck, this is my biggest issue with Republicans as we come closer to 2024. The analogy I would use is from the world of sports. Republicans decided all we have to do is kneel on the football. Biden at the border, Biden with crime, Biden with inflation, Biden with overall Afghanistan, Ukraine, everything Biden has touched has turned to crap. The Biden's touch, as we call it. But you still have to stand for something. And my concern is, what are Republicans standing for as we roll into the midterm? I don't really think they've made a case. And if you're not making a case, then you're opening yourself up to attack from the other side. And I think it's fair to say the Democrats have gone on attack. Now, it's not necessarily an effective attack. Semi-fascist is not the way that you would necessarily want to bring the country together. But if you break down where we are, Buck, I think the Dobbs decision has brought a lot of fervor and enthusiasm out of particularly suburban women in the United States. I don't think that Republicans have responded very well there. And I think the Democrat base is super excited about the idea that they're finally going to get Donald Trump, and it's distracting them. And let me just say this. I think the collapse in gas prices, relatively speaking, from $5 down to whatever it is, $3.75 or so, I think for most people, that tracks the overall Biden approval rate. And I think he's gotten a bump. $3.75 is still way too high, but it's not $5, and it makes people feel better.
Been saying this from the beginning of the year because Republicans got used to there being so much damage politically to the that was self-inflicted, right? I mean, the yes. polls were horrible. Everything was coming apart.
You said we hit bottom. I can't imagine it getting worse. And about mid-June, Biden hit bottom. He couldn't go any further. He hit the rock soil of his support, 35% or so.
And the problem that we face now is when people feel like things are improving, they often forget about how bad they were beforehand, right? So we saw a similar phenomenon when the Obama administration got started. It was always, look, where they picked the worst month of the 2008 Great Recession and would compare everything they were doing to that. Look where we are now. Look where we are now. people would point out this is the slowest recovery from a recession under Obama. It was the slowest recovery since World War II, just a function of numbers. But they would say, look at the jobs then, look at the jobs now. The Biden administration is benefiting from the fact that they bottomed early enough that they're now transitioning into a phase where they can say, just give us more time. See, we'll get it right. We're fixing it. It took long. Now, I think that's total crap. I think the border and crime and the economy and the major issues that people care about are, the very, very top issues are areas where Democrats really have no good answers. But this is also why I think Joe Biden's going to run again, everybody, because as long as things are better than they were when Biden came into office, the pitch will be, see, we're moving in the right direction, right? Remember, I think it was Obama's phrase was, the car was in the ditch and we took the car out of the ditch. And this was the whole thing in the 2012 election against Mitt Romney. So Republicans, so your analogy about kneeling on the football is exactly right. And I was worried about this. I was worried about the complacency. And we see it all over the place. Republicans need to go on offense. Joe Biden, the uniter, is calling Trump voters semi-fascists, everybody. He's just a step away from saying if you voted for Trump, you're a Nazi. This is Mr. Grandpa the uniter. And Republicans are where? Who's making the case?
I think you're 100% right. And look, the case is relatively straightforward. The case is everything Biden has touched has turned to crap. And at a minimum, Buck, the Republican case is we need to take back the House and the Senate so Biden can't make things worse. This was the pitch that should have worked if things hadn't gone crazy in Georgia. Buck, I was just down in Atlanta this past weekend speaking to a lot of fired up people in the state of Georgia. I still believe if you had to put your finger on one state that is the most important for Republicans to win back, I think it's Georgia. It's a traditionally red state. Stacey Abrams against Brian Kemp, Herschel Walker against the Reverend Raphael Warnock. Got to win both those seats. Got to win the governorship, keep it, and got to take back the Senate. And Buck, that is a powerful message. Biden has done an awful job. They have rammed through whatever they can in a 50-50 Senate with a narrow margin in the House. They've been far left-wing. They've spent trillions of your dollars. This most recent, and I still think we need to talk about the $1 trillion potentially in costs over this student loan move. Biden has governed recklessly, and he has governed poorly. And at a minimum, there needs to be a check on his power. And then we can have a big debate about Biden or Trump or whoever it is in 2024. But this election is about keeping left-wing Democrats from running roughshod over American values. And we've got to win, and we've got to win big. And I think we've really got to do a better case of making the argument for why this has to happen. And it can't be defending Trump at Mar-a-Lago. It just can't be the focal point of the Republican strategy.
If we circle the wagons from now until Election Day on the Mar-a-Lago issue, we're gonna lose the Senate for sure, and we're gonna maybe just squeak out a House victory. We have to be circling the wagons on, hey, guys, they were wrong about everything.
We agree that this Trump story is going to fade. Probably, unless there's an indictment that's brought, which would be a whole different level of crazy. And I just don't think Merrick Garland is going to do that at minimum before the midterms. But one thing I was thinking about a lot over the weekend, Buck, the Department of Justice, as you mentioned, says they've already reviewed all the documents, found some that were attorney-client privileged. This effectively appears to be over to me. National Archives got whatever documents they need. They're filed correctly now. There's nothing else hanging out there. Why did Trump keep these documents? I think this is an interesting conversation. What was the reason? Because this was a slow-moving, long-lasting demand and back and forth with the National Archives. I don't think there's any doubt, Buck, that he believed he was entitled to be able to keep them. And I think he got people who told him that. But above and beyond that, the only real rationale I can come up with is he believes that he has documents which go to Russia collusion, Ukraine, something of that nature. and he wanted to have proof of it because he didn't trust that the government would maintain these documents if he didn't control them.
I've been
Does that
told
make any sense to you at all?
I've been told that by people who worked in the Trump White House, that is what this was about, that they believe that he wanted to keep his own record of this, which for somebody who may run again, you can understand why that would be very useful, right? You don't want to be relying on the National Archives to give you evidence of a massive deep state federal government plot to undermine and destroy your presidency. That is the best possible explanation for it. I would also note that the 15 boxes, I mean, you got to assume it's probably thousands of pages of documents.
Yeah.
So there are thousands of pages, and they said, oh, there's over 100 that are classified, to which you would want to point out, I think, okay, but did he declassify those?
Yeah.
Did he have a right to take them? If he did, what are we even talking about? It's not like he just took everything classified he could for no good reason.